I don't want to put you on the spot, but I will. You're very welcome not to answer the question. But in terms of your personal view of sort of a sense of sadness about some things that haven't happened, do you want to enumerate those for us, or would you prefer not to?
Well, there are two primary things. There's the Maori representation on the council, which we thought was very important. But you know, if Aucklanders get behind that, we'll have it. Simple as that. The other thing is that I would have, the Commission would have liked to have seen, well, wanted to see, the powers and functions of the second tier set out in statute so that there was certainty as to what they would be and so that they couldn't be taken away. But again, as I say, the principles that were behind what we recommended are set out in statute. It's very clear there what should happen, what the functions and powers of the second tier should be. And provided those principles are observed, and it's over to people to make sure that they are, then I'm sure that the second tier will work very well and will be able to represent the community and provide for the community in the way that we envisaged it would.
Well, thank you. Can I just pick up on one other aspect that personally disappoints me about what's proposed?
Yes.
Is that in the Royal Commission report, you're advocating a very different relationship than we're going to get between Auckland and central government. So, for example, it was much more of a partnership, say, for example, on social issues.
Yes.
So there would have been mechanisms for us to be more directly engaged in that very big social spending out of Wellington. But it seems though the government just doesn't want that sort of close relationship. So we're going to get unnecessary complexity. So we're going to have a council-controlled organisation on transport, but the transport agency is still going to be very involved as well. But arguably, we could have had an organisation in the region that handled that transport function without having to sort of team up or work with the transport agencies, regional offices as well. So am I right in that analysis that that was an important part of what that new relationship with central government, more of a sort of a sharing, a co-management, is not actually going to come through in the new system?
Well, you're certainly right that that's what we had in mind. You know, the political decisions of today are the fish and chip wrappers of tomorrow. What I mean is that political decisions change all the time. The government, I think any government would want to feel confident that it had a partner that was working properly. Perhaps it's reasonable for central government to want to see the Auckland Council working properly before it enters into the sort of partnership arrangements that we suggested. So that's one possibility that I would put forward. But there is one development that Ron told me about just this evening, which I think indicates that the government does see what's going to happen in Auckland in partnership terms. And I wonder, Ron, if you could mention the new office that's been... Is there any confidentiality about this?
Yes, I'd just like to go back a bit on it, because the Committee for Auckland believe that we should have a much closer relationship between the governments of Auckland and the governments of the country for the obvious reasons of how significant our city is in the national economy.
Yes.
And so we were delighted when we saw the report that you produced recommending a social issues segment of the new council. The very first question I asked Rodney Hyde when he made the presentation of the government's proposal in Sky City, the day after or so it was tabled, was, well, why did you take the social issues aspect out of your recommendation and retain that? And the answer was that they envisaged that being within the Mayor's province to actually capture the social requirements of the city and convey those to the government, not the strength that you offered. But behind it, I sense, and when we were questioned during your Royal Commission and you asked me what I meant by having a social issues segment in the city, were we envisaging duplication of resource? Because when you look at the big spends that the government has in education, in some of the transport aspects, in health and in social support, as I said before, $18 billion, they were worried that we might set up a sort of somewhat competing group. And I think the avenue was open. Hyde said to me, well, if you can actually bring forward those, social structures, then we can engage with them at the government level. So I think it's a challenge for the city as a whole, and I take it beyond the mayor, of course. It is the council and the local boards coming up through the process to actually devise a complementary input into social spend. The social spend in some ways in New Zealand is quite inefficient. There's work going on. Please have a look at the Tamaki transformation project that's going on at the moment. It is a superb piece of community engaged work which cuts across so much social spending in justice, in health, in social services, and it's working with the people of that area to design a process whereby that area can be redeveloped, and Richard would be able to describe it very well, I know, because the council's really deeply in behind this project. And so there's lots of social stuff we can do. We also advocated very strongly and continue to do so for Maori seats. And so we managed to get the Prime Minister and the Minister of Maori Affairs on the same platform at the Ōrākei Marae, working about cooperation with Maori and various social issues that they're managing at the moment. So, look, I think we've got to actually know where we want to get to, and we've got to work to get ourselves there. And what was not delivered in the government's proposal, I think we can actually work it through the council and make those other benefits. But we must be efficient when we do it. We can't be duplicating what's already a big spend in the government's agenda. We want to improve the efficiency with which the government spends its money, not actually add another cost to it.
And of course that was the...
Now, I'm sorry, you asked me a question I haven't answered. We were successful in getting the Guaido office established in Auckland. That's a government office of representatives, mainly about the economic development. They have now told us that they are going to lift that to being an Auckland policy office, so it will cover the work of 2 or 3 of the government departments. I think Treasury and is involved, economic development, certainly, probably transport. But we will be able to have representatives of the ministries resident in Auckland with which we can discuss matters that are in our heads and we're developing ideas around them. We can actually engage with government without having to do the trek to Wellington and back, and probably get a much more government-centric, if you like, involvement for Auckland through that process. So I was delighted when they said they were going to put Auckland Policy Office into Auckland.
Yes, well that sounds to me like a good start. And getting back to the social welfare side of things, of course in our report the recommendations we made were designed to do 2 things: to avoid duplication, the point that Ron's just made, and secondly to assist the government in identifying the real problems of Auckland through the local knowledge that is available in Auckland. So yeah, all that's in our report. It's something that can be worked on for the future. Those things that aren't implemented at this stage, if people want them implemented, people should work to ensure that that happens.
Yeah,
thank you.
Exactly.